Good evening.
Good evening. I really love that intro.
I do too. It's
Yeah,
creepy, isn't it?
it is very
It's
creepy.
fitting.
You say it's pretty?
It's fitting.
Oh, I was about to say it is pretty too. Pretty scary.
Yeah,
How are you guys doing? You guys doing all right?
doing
Doing good.
amazing. Yeah.
Almost pretty good. Is that what you used to say?
Practically perfect.
Practically perfect.
Yeah,
It's been a while, hasn't it? What's been about a month and a half or 2 months or so?
yeah. It's been a minute.
Yeah, we've gone through a little bit of some changes, but yeah, we're back doing the
Yeah.
witches hour again.
Yay!
Yay! And I'm
I
on a hot,
missed it.
I'm on a
I'm
I'm in a hot
excited.
streak this week, which is fucked.
I missed something because all I heard was and then you said, which is
Fucked.
fucked.
I'm fucked. I'm the guest tonight. You guys are the hosts. I'm the guest tonight, and I am fucked.
No.
We'll
Yes.
make it.
I like getting fucked. Don't take away my fun. Damn it, Papa.
You can have your
Hello,
fun.
hello, Barbara. Hello, Aaron Thomas. Good evening. They like the killer intro. I know, right? See, we're not the only ones
Yeah.
that like it.
Yeah.
Hello, Facebook user. Hello, how are you all doing this evening? It's a Wednesday,
Yeah. Hump day.
Witchy Wednesday, and we're going
And
to be
our
talking about.
special guest this evening, Sid,
Hello,
and
hello,
we're going to
hello.
talk about some ghosts
Yeah.
It is that time of the year, isn't it, for all that
stuff.
good stuff talk, isn't it?
That spooky jazz.
Well, what you guys have thought about the paranormal before we get started?
You go first.
For myself, it's honestly just a part of life. A lot of my work and my teachings and working with other people is also in working with spirits to the best of my ability and in whichever way they present themselves for communication. So I absolutely believe in ghost and spirit and all of that stuff.
What
It's
about you, Luna?
I'm not too sure. I know that there's something that is that we're sharing, space with. I just don't know what to call it. If it's ghosts or spirit or angels or demons or all of the above, but I know that there must be something.
I think it's I think it's really important for anybody who's in the paranormal investigating field to be a skeptic, right? I mean,
Hmm.
you're wondering. There's always that. No matter how much documentation you get, there's still always that what if, what is. You know what I mean? What
Yeah,
is there really something? What do we call it? What is it? And we all think it can't be just when we die. It's just black and it's it, right?
right.
we Everybody wants to believe that after we go, there's still something left that we do that we can remember, right?
Yeah. And we don't know, like, are we, when we see things, are we hallucinating? Are we, you know, making these things come to fruition in our mind? And, you know, it's just, you never know.
I think a lot of that depends on what night it is and if it's the weekend or not.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Good evening, my beautiful wife. How are you? I'm at moments I teeter. I kind of like teeter with the idea of the paranormal, I guess. So
Yeah,
I'm a really hard skeptic, but it's hard for me to be a skeptic because all the experiences we'll get into that I've had makes me wonder what is really going on after we pass away and we leave this earth. What is actually going on after that? I find it very intriguing. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to get in it. Just wanted to wonder what you guys just thought of it. And have you guys ever had any like experiences? Papa, have you had anything like that stood out in your life with as far as the
Oh,
paranormal?
lots and lots and lots, but I also invite it and I work in it. I make myself available to it. And a lot of people aren't able to do that. They've got different sorts of work or jobs, and their focus is in different places. But I'm fortunate enough to be able to include that in my work. So lots and lots. But if there were anything to stand out, I think it would be the home that we're living in now. Um, some things have happened that kind of let you know that there is an energy there. The house here was built in the late 60s, early 70s by an artist lady, and it was a really
Mm.
quirky house at the time. Um, the dining room that we use now was once her art gallery, and we've heard stories from other people that have come to visit while she was living about a stream running through the house, a living tree, a rock wall. So she was a very eccentric lady, and she included that passion for life in the building of the house. And I think her spirit does linger here. Things have happened, and
Mm.
through the 90s, while the house was being resold, it was kind of stripped back to beige, everything tan carpet, tan walls, basic countertops to sound this weird round house. But my wife and I, over the last few years, have tried to revive some of that spirit that she gave it in the beginning. Yeah. Just funky colors and doing different things
Mm.
with the house to kind of honor her memory and spirit. And I think she's letting us know that she appreciates it.
Nice.
That's pretty cool though. That you went to that. Didn't you say you have a picture of her up, right? Or a
Yeah,
picture?
we were able to track down one of her self portraits that she had did. Not too many are out there, but we got a hold of one, and it's now in our dining room, which was once her art gallery. So
That's
it's cool
pretty
to have
cool.
her picture there.
What about you, Luna? Have you ever had any like standout experiences?
Yes, there was a house that I lived in a few years ago in Athol, Massachusetts. And it was an old farmhouse built in the 1800s, and it was haunted for sure. Um, our first night there was really creepy. We all were sleeping in one of the living rooms. There was many living rooms in that house. It was just a huge house. Anyway, and sorry, I'm still a little bit sick. So, um, anyway, we were laying. The whole family was laying on the floor trying to sleep, and all of a sudden, everyone heard, "I can see you." We all instantly looked at each other and was like, "Who was that?" And no one knew who it was. So the 2 years that we lived there, we would go upstairs, and there was, well, certain rooms, and especially the attic, where you would go in, and as soon as you just cross over this certain spot, you would feel this like vroom, 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 and this like pushing, like whatever was there didn't want you there. It was really frightening, and apparently, a guy had died of a heart attack or something many, many years ago in that house, and his chair was still there. And I was like, "Get that thing out of here." So we got the chair out of there, but was still experiencing a lot of things. Things would get, fly across the room, or a picture would fall out of nowhere, or we would see or think we saw things like images pass by us. Um, Felt like almost like there was a cat there as well, because it would jump up on our bed, but there was no cat. It it was extremely crazy. But that house stands out to me more than any experience.
The only reason why I ask because I think everybody, excuse me, I think about everybody's had some sort of experience with the paranormal, whether they want to admit it that it was something or it was trick of the mind. I think everybody has had it. I think some sort of experience with the paranormal.
Well, how about yourself? Do you have something that stands out to you over time? And
Jeez, man, I couldn't even begin to tell you all the. I mean, I have several experiences that I think when you have an experience, I think they all for me stand out. But I think it really started for me at an early age when I started going to church. around 10 years old is when I really started experiencing things of the supernatural or spiritual realm. I don't know. You can't quite put a finger on it, I guess, at that age. But like, for instance, when I was going to church, I was going to a Pentecostal church. And back in the 80s and 90s, it's a rare thing to have a pastor that's a female. But the pastor of this church was a female, and her husband was like the co-pastor of the church. Well, she kind of took me under her wing, came like her adopted grandson. And so I became really, really involved in the church. I was there to help do whatever it is, volunteered. I played in the band, the church band. That's where I first started playing the drums, was actually at church, playing when the saints go marching in. That's how I learned how to play drums. The youth service minister was the bass player. It's like, hey, you want to try playing the drums? Like, yeah, sure, why not? And from that point on, it became a love affair with the drums. Long story short, me being right there next to this pastor, and I don't know if you guys know a lot about Pentecostals. You guys know a lot about Pentecostals?
Yes.
They speak in tongues. They get really extravagant when it comes to praising the Lord. They'll get up and they'll start yelling and screaming and dancing, or they'll start running around the church, and they get really, really carried away. They really eccentric about their beliefs, but being around that, you experienced a lot of supernatural or spiritual, maybe a little bit of both, to make the person wonder what is really out there. Is there really demons? At a young age, you believe that there was, because I witnessed about 6 or 7 exorcisms while being there with this pastor, and I've seen how these people walk into the church, and you see this. Their face looks different. Their demeanor is different. Their attitude's different when they first walk in, and then you're seeing them getting anointed, and they're doing their exorcism, and then you see them on the ground. They're shaking and screaming and yelling. I mean, that stuff like really stood out to me as a kid, and it stuck with me almost to the point where it haunted me a little bit, I guess. But that's really kind of where my spiritual supernatural journey really began. Was going to church and seeing people getting exercised. It was really, really crazy.
So you do believe in the afterlife, or no?
I don't know. I mean, to be fair, if anybody would sit there and tell you, yeah, then they're not really doing their job as being an investigator or a ghost hunter, right?
Right.
I mean, you have to be skeptical about everything that goes on. It's great that you're able to document it. That's another benefit, and it makes you more of a believer. But in the 80s and 90s, you didn't have all this taking stuff that you do now. It's like, okay, I've had this experience, but I can't document it. Well, this happened to me, but I can't document it. Now we got all that stuff to be able to document it with. So it makes you more of a believer.
And you couldn't really talk much about that kind of stuff back then, because everyone would think you were crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're another Miss Cleo.
Yeah.
These are some of the best late night infomercials.
But I think that's been my. So to answer your question, even yes and no. Yes, I do believe there's something going on. I don't want to believe that when we die, that's it. I don't want to believe that. It's a possibility, though, right? Because that's why we investigate. That's why everybody still investigates, because nobody's ever really got any substantial evidence of there's a real true proof of what goes on after there, right? We may believe it, and we may have experienced it, and it makes us believe it. But for a lot of people out there in the world, it's prove it. I want pictures. I want video evidence. I want you to prove it to me. Even though we've experienced it, we've all had our own individual experiences. Like with you, Papa, you work with ancestors, so that's something you're constantly connected to. You know it's real, right? Just like I feel like I do a little bit of mediumship.
Now you have, I'm sorry, you have, in a sense, passed away before. In a sense, and you were brought back to life, and in between the few minutes that you were gone, do you remember any experience, or
not a thing?
Huh.
It was truly, honestly, black.
Wow.
There, I mean, the brain. Here's another thing people need to understand about. For this is my view and my view only, right? This is my opinion. This is how I could be wrong, but they say after a person dies, the body keeps operating. The brain keeps operating for a little while longer, right?
Right.
And when these people are passing away, their brain is still running, right? So in their mind, they could be still in a dream state. They're seeing people that they want to see. They're communicating with people that they want to communicate with.
Hmm.
We get closer to death. We want to be near our loved ones, right? That's passed. Like if I passed away, I would want to be around my dad. I would want to be around my. I want to be around my son. I want to be around my grandmother. So I feel when you get closer to the time of passing,
Hmm.
that I think a lot of it is our brain is still working and still functional, and we're thinking up the things that we want to see,
Hmm.
and then we wake up. We say we had an experience of afterlife.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but I try to look at it as a scientific way of looking at things too. We can't be naive to ourselves and say we're going to live a life completely spiritual and we're just going to live on blind faith. Some of that blind faith also has to be proved too, right? Otherwise, we're not going to keep on following it if we ain't got no proof. So I try to look at things a little bit scientific, I guess, in a way too.
I actually do the same in some of my talks because a lot of people do want concrete evidence of something if they're to cast any sort of belief in it at all. And that's understandable. There's a lot of craziness out there. So if there's something real and something that you can show me, then yeah, I'll get into it. So scientific, and that's kind of a lot of paranormal investigation. It's bringing the scientific side into something spiritual to document through our technology. But scientific theory, if you believe in the law of conservation of energy, that no energy is created or destroyed but transferred. We are energy. Our bodies are energy. You can look at us. We have a temperature that is greater than the surrounding temperature of the air or the water. And we generate energy. You get so many, I guess, candle watts or however they measure it thermally, but energy. And so when we cease to live, all of that energy goes into something else if you believe in the law of conservation of energy. And we see it with the wildlife. It will pass on, its spirit goes, but then its body and that energy is absorbed by all the other animals and the insects and the bugs and all the things that break it down and the fungi and the grass.
I
So it
couldn't agree more.
transfers and goes to other places, but
I've
lingers
always
on.
had a philosophy about that energy transfer and how we have deja vu and how we're able to connect with our ancestors. I had a philosophy about this. What if the energy that we're talking about, that we're transferring, is through our DNA? So, for instance, deja vu, and we feel like we've been there before. We all know the meaning of deja vu, but who is to say that that experience is not not an ancestor of yours that has been there at some point in time? And that transfer of DNA, that's how we keep bloodline going, right? DNA is being
And we
transferred.
share that link.
We're
Hmm.
sharing that link between our ancestor and what we're experiencing today. I don't know what your
Absolutely.
thoughts. That's kind of I kind of see it like when people are connecting with their ancestors. For me, it's always been a view of we're able to connect because we're transferring parts of their DNA over to our DNA. Now, what parts are we getting? We know we're going to look like them. We're going to sort of talk like them, or we're going to have their last name. But some of those memories, some of those deja vu memories, I think is linked to our ancestors through our DNA.
Well, Norse or Scandinavian folklore, and when it comes to spirit or soul lore, there's a concept called orlog, and that's where you're not just passed down genetics, but you're also passed down memories, life experiences,
That's right.
good and bad, I guess, for lack of a better term, juju or um, your vibe. And It's all passed down, and we all carry it and pass it on to the next. So yeah,
That's
I
what I
like
always,
that. I like that a lot.
that's been my view about it. That's how I think it's how we're. Some people maybe have an easier way of connecting, like with you, Papa. You work more because you practice at it. You have this ability to connect with your answers a lot easier. Or some people can't do that. Some people just can't connect. They connect by looking at a picture, or they connect by looking at a videotape of them going on vacation. Where you take that you're spiritually connecting with the ancestors versus just remembering good times or family vacations.
I
That's a
believe that
skill that you
we
own.
also inherit some of the traumas as
Mhm.
well from our ancestors, and we kind of carry this burden with us. And there's often talk. I see a lot of people, and I've heard a lot of people talking about how we have to break that, so it doesn't continue to go on to the next bloodline, where we can find healing and produce a better life for the ones to come.
I agree with
That's
you.
what I believe. But
I like that. I like that too because it's true. We I feel depending how far back your heritage, your bloodline goes, each generation is carrying a little bit of weight. So the first generation and the second generation is carrying a little bit of that weight till it tumbles all the way down like a water going down a mountain till it hits you. And
yeah,
then that's a lot of weight, hundreds, 200 years worth of family heritage that's carrying on your soul that you're carrying
yeah,
around. I
yeah,
and very few people break that cycle, and that's true too.
yeah.
Right.
So what is a ghost to you? What does that mean?
That's kind of a weird. I wouldn't say weird question, but that's kind of hard, really, if you think about it. You can give the definition of what a ghost is,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean. But what's it mean to me? I don't quite know yet. And I think that's the beauty of this adventure that I'm taking on, doing these paranormal investigations, because I'm not sure what it actually means yet. What we I'm not for sure what is going on in my life. For instance, I've always been able to communicate with the other side at some level, and then I'll step away from it. Then I noticed here the last I was telling you guys before the show that I've noticed lately that some of that cloud that's been that fog in your head is starting to clear a little bit, and I'm starting to notice
Hmm.
some of those gifts that I was working hard on a couple of years ago are starting to come back again. So I think that's what kind of triggered me to want to do these paranormal investigations is to get some answers. What is a ghost? Is it a energy? Is it an apparition? Is it trick of the mind? Are you wanting to see these things? Are you wanting to hear these things? And that's the journey that I want to take on. And the reason why I'm wanting to do this because I want answers just as well as you guys. Most of everybody in the world wants, right? What is a ghost? What is a ghost? Is it all the above? Is it just one thing? That's the beauty of it, and really diving into and exploring the possibilities.
Absolutely.
Did that answer it?
Yeah.
Sort of, sort of.
Sort of. What does it mean to be a ghost hunter?
Well, in my view, it's
Hmm.
to be a ghost hunter. I think is that you have to. It's to explore possibilities, but don't explore it to the point to you're an investigator.
Hmm.
You're searching for answers. Don't don't stop because you have one experience doing something. Don't let that stop you and say, "Hey, okay, I've had my experience, so there has to be something out there." It could be a fluke, it could be a trick of the camera. Keep vet. It's it's wanting to have more knowledge of what go. And I say this: you want more knowledge of what goes on in afterlife to better my spiritual path in today. I think that's why it's a paranormal investigating for me right now. Is not only is it investigating what goes on after we pass, but me learning what's going on will help me grow in my path.
Right.
I'm trying to teach myself. And they say they can't teach an old dog new tricks.
I think that kind of answered one of the things that I wanted to get into. I like to talk to people about their purpose. A lot of people will practice a thing or pursue a thing or do a thing, and they'll have a certain intention, but they're not always aware of their purpose, or they're lacking a purpose behind it. But I think you've answered that already in saying that it's for yourself and to build in your path and your knowledge, and then also to share with other people to help them in what they might be looking for to prove or disprove.
I think I'm going at it a different approach than most that you'll probably see within the paranormal field, because I've had so many years of experience in the pagan path, whether it's witchcraft, witchy stuff, pagan beliefs. I'm going at it with that approach, and not with the typical Christian. There's gods, there's demons. I'm doing it with, okay, I know my practice very well. I know how to protect myself. I know what I need to do if I want to communicate with people. I know what to do if something's trying to attach to me, where I don't have to scream out in the name of Jesus Christ, I rebuke you. No, I don't need all that, because I already know, and just in my path, how to handle, let's say, a dark entity. I've practiced dark magic. I've practiced Satanism, Luciferian. I've delved a lot into the dark arts. That's just, I've practiced it all. I know what to do to protect, and I've brought things from that I have in my storage for these investigations. Let's say there is a dark entity in someone's home. I brought tools to help cleanse them of that home while I'm there.
Right.
It ain't me walking around with the Bible with holy water splashing all over the walls. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Just I'm not taking that approach.
There's a lot to be said for the power of belief, I think, and not just in whether you believe in ghosts or not, like you had just mentioned, different ways to protect yourself or cleanse a space or to combat something that you feel is malevolent or a negative energy. And some people will do it with sage, and some people will do it with a Bible and holy water. But I think it all comes down to the energy that you give that, for lack of a better term, middleman. And if you believe in that, then your belief is manifesting that energy and that power to do what you're wanting it to do.
Yes, I mean, and I have nothing against the people going in there if they're experiencing a demon, and they're bringing a priest in, and they're cleansing the home, and they're doing that. That's fine, but that's not the approach that I'm going to take. The approach that I feel comfortable with, and that's my own personal magic. What I've been practicing for the last 25, 30 years, that I feel very confident in, that I know what I'm doing and know the proper ways to protect myself before I just dive into a paranormal investigation, knowing that you already have that gift of discernment. You're already walking into a piece of a property that you want to do an investigation, and right when you start walking down a hill, you're already starting to feel the presence of something there. So you automatically go, okay, all right. I stop, and I'm like, all right. I put my hands over my head, and I just put like an invisible shield over my body. That way, there's can be no attachments. And I'm already expecting that there's something here that I need to protect myself from. And that's what I did when I went to the 1907 earlier this week. As soon as I got to the threshold of the woods to go down under the bridge, I knew immediately there was something there. So I just kind of, in my head, put a visible force field, sort of a sense, over my body to protect anything to be able to attach themselves or leech onto me.
Now, do you believe in demon possession?
I've experienced it,
Mm-hmm.
but do I believe? That's tricky. It's so hard, because my experiences were when I was young. But to say that there's not, I can't say there's not no demons. I think that there is dark entities, but I don't think that's. Sometimes I want to believe. I want to believe that these entities are not dark. They're just angry. They're not being heard, and they're finding their own way to communicate with you to say, hey, I am here. I want to be heard. I want somebody to tell my story. I want somebody to dig into this history. But the only way that they're able to do that is sometimes maybe it's to scare you, turn on a light switch. I've never had any poltergeist experiences. Well, maybe I might have had one. I think it
I
depends on
mean,
what you.
we even do that while we're living. If we're hurt by something or upset by something, we tend to get stuck in that for a little while at least until it's corrected. And we experience something, a wrongdoing toward us. We're upset about that for a while and we stay in that state until it's fixed or we forget about it. So, for spirits or ghosts or uh, those that have passed on, if they've passed on in a way that they're angry about or hurt about, that energy and that feeling of being upset may linger for a little while until it's corrected.
I think I agree with you there too. I think, like for instance, if it's a horrible way of dying, for instance, I won't say that when I walked down in 1907 that there was a dark entity there because I haven't done the proper I haven't done anything properly to document it for myself that there is a dark presence there. Maybe what I feel when I walk there was some of the hurt and sorrow of some of these people who have passed away. For instance, when these people that, for instance, one person has jumped off the bridge, misjudged the depth of the water. When he dove in, he broke his neck. Maybe what I was feeling was what I call dark could be just how they're feeling right now. They're lost and maybe in that limbo of reenacting that same scene over and over and over again until someone's able to go in there and break that cycle. Say, hey, you don't have to keep doing this. You don't have to be here anymore. You can cross over. You can move on. You don't have to be here. I don't want to. So demons, that's tricky. I don't know. I don't.
I don't know either.
I don't know. Because that would mean for me that I would have to lean more into the Christian belief of things.
Right.
Because they're the ones that really kind of made these the King Solomon's demons. Them are the ones that the Christians and Catholics made, right? Them are the ones you fear. Them are the Christian demons. Now we're going to talk about those. That's not real.
No.
For me, it's not real. I think they're designed based on Christian belief to scare the general population. Well, if you're doing such and such and such and such, this demon's possessing you right now. So one of them that I studied was Oso, O-S-O. OC, maybe OC, I can't remember how it's pronounced, but he was like number 56, I believe, and he was half human, half leopard. He was a shapeshifter. So back in those days, if you had multiple personalities during the times of the Bible and all that stuff, if you had multiple personalities, they would consider you a shapeshifter. You're shifting through personalities. So they created this demon, Osi, to represent what's going on with that person, to say, okay, they're demonized now. They're possessed with a demon. They did the same thing with handicapped kids, with the kids that had mental disabilities. They categorize it as these kids are demons. And they create these figures like King Solomon's demons to compare what's going on with these people that they couldn't explain. They couldn't explain why these kids grew up crippled. They couldn't explain why these kids grew up mentally challenged. So they categorized as, they demonized it. So for me, when you ask me, is there demons? It's hard for me to say yes, and it's hard for me to say no.
I think that's also a very human condition, which you had just mentioned, how they were to see these experiences and then come up with the demon's name for it and assign that. And so it gave us something to call them. And we've done that with our deities throughout history. Something
right.
that we can't really explain, something that we see as very powerful, more than ourselves, that we can't really explain. We have a tendency to name
Label it.
everything. We want to put a label on it, name
We
it.
can't explain it, so we're going to label it. And back then, we were so simple-minded. Our way of living and how we treat people we were very, very simple. And we're sort of that way today, right? Take, for instance, I'm not trying to get political, but Take, for instance, Donald Trump. It takes one guy to incite a riot on the White House. One guy. Back then, the same thing, right? All it took was one person to say, "Oh, this is they're mentally handicapped. This is such and such demon. They need to be put into a home and protected from society. Otherwise, other people will be demonized and will get possessed by these demons as well." Just the broad of thinking. There was no science back then. It was so they had to categorize it as something. They had to categorize it as evil.
I think back then, just as much as now, it all comes from fear.
Yeah, the
We
fear
were
of not
afraid back
knowing.
then, and
You
so
don't know.
things like that were easy to do. And we're afraid now, even today. And so things like one person um, getting that kind of message across to result in what happened, it's a lot of fear.
I agree.
Yeah. Fear tends to feed ghost energy as well. If you ever notice, like if you've been around ghosts, or a haunted home or a place, the more scared you are, the more fear you feel, the stronger I believe that the ghosts
Well, they feed off that
become.
energy. They feed off the fear. Fear is probably one of them. Fear and love are like the two strongest emotions that a human person can show, right? You can
Mm,
love someone so much you can love them the rest of your life, or you can love them so much that you kill them. Just like
mm,
with fear. Fear is not exactly like love, but when you're scared, there is a lot of energy going through you that these spirits or entities can feed off of.
yeah.
Yeah, it's even in a physical sense. In those two things, our heart rate increases, our pulse, our breathing. We're physically creating more energy. And they've looked at it with the brain scans and CT scans, and they can see the sparks going off and different things under different
Mm.
situations and emotions.
I like this, what Mary Beth just said. Most monsters are human. Lame quote, but it's true. It is true. People want. I was watching a documentary on Netflix about Jeffrey Dahmer, and it's their audio tapes of him talking to his lawyer, and that she recorded like 38 hours of conversation with him.
Mm.
She to the end of she felt like he was like a son to her, and people in society wanted to categorize Jeffrey Dahmer as being evil, even to the point that he almost convinced himself that he was evil and that he had some sort of demon inside him. He could explain why he was the way he was and why he did the things that he did. Now, we can look at this differently, right? You can think maybe he was possessed by a demon, or maybe he just went mental health went unchecked, and he never had the proper mental health care that he needed to maybe suppress some of these urges. He was a very private, lonely kid. He had to live up to his mother and father's expectations, and so who knows, right? That's the beauty of doing
Yeah.
being a paranormal investigator and believing and believing in cult period, because you just don't know, and that's the beauty, because you're always trying to learn and you're always trying to find answers. Scientists will tell you that he had mental problems. He had mental things going on that most people don't have, and maybe it was genetic, passed down from another generation to him, and he got it, perhaps, or maybe he was saved. Maybe he was possessed. To me, you would almost feel like someone would have to be to do some of the shit that he did.
I just don't think he had a very good outlet for all the things that he was going through in his
He
life.
was missing. He was missing primal human emotions. He did
Yeah.
not know what remorse was. He did not know what love was. He didn't understand. He never experienced what love. Even though his parents may have loved him to death, he didn't know what love. He was missing those raw primal emotions that every human being has. He was missing
Yeah.
those.
Yeah.
Not that I'm condoning what he's done, but maybe just think it at a different point of view. The guy
Yeah.
was crazy. Absolutely 100% he was crazy. But what was the root causes of him being crazy? He didn't have a bad childhood. His parents both loved him. Now his mother and his father didn't get along very well, but his dad loved him. They were never abusive. He had never had any sexual abuse in his life. So there was something else in his mind that made him click. And a lot of people thought that he was possessed by the devil or a demon. And he was pure evil, but it is pure evil. But is that really what his problem was? Just saying.
I'm stunned because I'm thinking like a million things about the
Well,
possibilities.
another good example of somebody like that. Let's take Manson, Charles Manson.
Hmm.
Never committed a murder, but got convicted for murder, right? He was able to convince other people to commit his murders. They say
In
he
the
was
name of God.
in the name of God.
Yeah.
People say that he was crazy, but we all seen interviews with Charles Manson. He was absolutely bonkers. But was
Yes.
he possessed? Was he the devil? You can't say that. These
Mm-hmm.
people have genuinely something missing genetically that's making them act out the way they do. That's just, or they let their ego get the best of them, and and that's really something really touchy in our community as well. I'm going to bring up briefly, is that people go follow spiritual leaders on social media blindly, and
Mm-hmm.
that really irritates me, because I don't want anybody that follows me to be a sheep. I want people that follow me with their own mind, their own way of thinking, their own beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
No restrictions. I do not like it when people follow people blindly. And just because they say one thing that someone likes, all of a sudden they're going to jump right in and follow them blindly and do whatever they say. Waco, Texas. What was that? David Koresh, another good example. He thought he was the second coming of Christ. People believe that shit. And next thing
Yeah.
you know, he's got a whole compound of people dying for him.
Yeah. No one asking questions.
Makes no sense. That's why
Yeah.
that might answer a little bit your paranormal. What's it mean to be a paranormal investigator? Constantly asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
Never be short anything, I guess.
Yeah. Now, I've noticed that a lot of paranormal investigators like to investigate in the dark. Why?
I don't know why either. To be fair, I mean, I guess for me, the way I look at it is, when you shut the lights off, okay, when the lights are on, your mind's going. You got things you can look at, see, touch, feel. You want to get up, you want to move. When you turn the lights off, right, it's complete darkness.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, you have no choice but to focus on the darkness and nothing else, which narrows all the random stuff that's going on around you, all that random noise. You're blocking out, because now only thing you're contending with now at this point is yourself, right? You're in the
Yeah.
dark, alone. This is just you. You can shut everything else down that's around you and focus on what's going on in that room and in that area that you're at. That's what I think. But does others think that way? I don't know. But I think, to me, it makes a lot of sense to turn the lights off if you want to shut your mind. You can have paranormal experiences any time of the day.
Oh yeah.
So that's the only reason I can think of why anybody would want to turn the lights off, is because it helps you calm the mind and shut everything else out and focus on what you're doing.
That makes
I think
sense.
your other senses become more in tune. Like when someone actually loses their sense of sight, their other senses pick up. They're more sensitive to touch and to taste, and their hearing improves, or they hear things a lot better than other people. So when we lose that sense of light and what we can see, and we're not as likely to see an apparition as we are to experience it in another way as well, whether it by temperature in the room, or to hear something, or to feel something, smell something even. People have talked about walking into a room and smelling a perfume or a cologne when there's
Yes. Yep.
no one there for years and years.
And they also say, if you like, they smell like death, which that usually lets indicator that there's some kind of demonic force that's there present with you. But I've watched where they've had the sweet smell,
Mm-hmm.
they've had cigar smells, they've had certain odors that links them to a loved one. But once again, as an investigator, how much of that is your mind wanting that to happen. You're apparently you're wanting to connect with somebody that's passed, right? First of all, you're missing someone, which part of what I'm doing is because I miss my loved ones too, and I
Mhm.
want to know. I want to be able to communicate with them as well. So that's always in your head, right? When you go to get someone for a card reading, hypothetically, and you have a question in your head for this card reader. That's why, Papa, when you've done a card reading for me, you ask what I'm looking for, and I've told you just give me something in general because I don't want you to know what I want, and I don't want to put it out into the universe what I want. I want it to come organically through a card reading or a bone reading. That's a lot of the reason
Mhm.
why when you ask what am I looking or answers for, I keep it general and I don't really come out and tell you. Even though I know what I want, I'm not letting anyone know what I want, and I'm not putting it out into the universe, so I know that I'm not making that happen. That
It's
makes any
another
sense.
layer of that investigative approach to something.
That's it. And your reading when I had the reading from you, it was spot on. And I didn't let him know a thing what I was asking, what I was wanting until after the fact. He was giving me the reading, and I was confirming what he was telling me.
Yeah,
And it's rare. It's rare because a lot of people
it
go
is.
into it wanting answers. They're expecting something. They're wanting to communicate with somebody. So sometimes your mind might be telling you what you want to hear. And it happens a lot with like when you do oracle cards or tarot card readings. People are coming on to get a card because they're wanting an answer of a question. They want to communicate with somebody. So even though that card is given to them, not every card is going to make sense, right? And so they're going to look at this card and go, "Oh, this is for me because I was just thinking about this such and such 5, 10 minutes ago. So this card must be for me." So they come in with this already expecting to get answers, and I try not to do that. I try to go into everything clear minded, not put anything out in the universe because I don't want to be the one. I don't want to be the one putting it out there to get an answer that I just want. I want it to come to me organically.
And when you get into it and go blind like that, or without presenting a question, you get to hear what's needed instead of what's wanted. You
That's
want an
it.
answer, and sometimes you'll get that answer, but you've missed an opportunity to hear what was needed instead.
I like to go to the approach of it saying, what do I need to know when I do any like an oracle card reading for myself? Just in general, what do I need to know about this day? And I go and meditate on that. And I try to do that for other people as well. But I feel that it's more, I don't know. I have a hard time reading for other people, especially because the people that come to me, I know them personally. So it's hard for me to really disconnect what I know. You know what I mean? And not wanting, like, maybe I have this feeling or this instinct that something negative is happening for them, and because I know them and I love and care for them, I'm like, "Oop, don't wanna hurt their feelings,"
You're afraid
so
that you're tarnishing the reading because you know them so well. When I
yes,
do
yeah,
when I do oracle readings, I don't ask the other person for a question. I don't say, "Hey, what do you want to know?"
mhm,
I shuffle the deck and I lay the cards out, and what the cards are laid out, that's their reading. That's what they're going to get.
yeah.
It may not be what they want and why they come to me for, but I'm giving you a raw, authentic reading. I don't know. I don't want to know what you want. I want to be able to trust my instinct. I want to be able to
Mhm,
trust my spirits. I want to be able to trust my guides that I'm getting. I'm giving it. I'm giving a authentic reading. So when someone says, "Hey, give me a card reading," I'm giving you what pulls out the deck, and it's I'm giving you the way it's laid out. I don't want your questions. I don't want to know what you want to know. I'm just giving you what you need. I'm giving you what you need to know.
I believe that men, don't take this the wrong way, but men have a better sense and capability of giving a very well, card reading or rune reading because they're able to do that disconnection. Um, Women are very caring, and not saying that you're not, but we have this maternal instinct that we're constantly fighting. And men just, they're able to put their minds, like their minds are like little files. They're able to close doors, open doors, go back into their memories and pick and choose what they really think about. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but I think male card readers.
Well, we're I can agree with a little bit of that because men can take the emotional side aspect of it out and give
Yes.
you a reading without feeling the emotions of, like you said, being a mother, where you're wanting to nurture them and you don't want to hurt their feelings. You're trying to spare their feelings. Where guys, I think we're capable of being cut and dry with a message
Yes.
and separating the emotional side of it to the spiritual side, which is very important, really, to be fair, because you can't really give someone a proper reading if you're going to get emotional about it, to an extent to where you feel like you got to protect them. Then if you're protecting them from the truth, then you're not giving them a proper reading. Where men are like, okay, this is it. This is your reading. This is how it is. There's things you may need to change in your life, but you may not like what's being said. But this is it. You can't change that. One good thing about giving people readings, though, that you're friends with, as you're giving the reading, even though you may know the person, certain things, cards are being laid out or bones laid out, gives you confirmation within yourself, knowing that this reading is being actually as a message exactly for what this person needs. It's giving you a little bit of confirmation as well.
Absolutely.
But it is a fine line, though, because you know them so well. You worry that you're going to tarnish the reading by knowing so much about them. But you have to learn how to trust yourself. And I think that's key for any card reader, right? Or even bone readers, that you have to trust your instinct. You have to trust your guides. You can't second guess yourself. And there's times I'm still guilty of it today, but I shut it down. I was like, this is the message. It may not make sense right now, but it may make sense a week from now.
I think
You
that's really
definitely
it.
have to.
The trust in yourself, the trust in your practice, your trust in the oracle that you're working with, whether it be tarot or oracle. I've never done anything with cards, but my work is in the runes, and even if I'm casting for a friend or a stranger, I can't jeopardize my connection with the runes and the gift that I'm being afforded. So it's not that I disconnect with anyone, it's that I put the integrity of the practice first and foremost.
It's important.
And so I won't allow myself to be dishonest in any way, even if it's something that is going to upset somebody or they don't want to hear. That's not up to me to decide. I'm just conveying the message I'm interpreting.
You're
And
the
so I have to
messenger.
do that accurately and honestly.
And that's really important because you have to have trust in your practice and trust into what you're doing. And it's very rare to get people out there, and especially in our community, that don't try to play with the cards a bit and give them messages that these people want to hear, because hey, that's a potential client. There could be somebody that I can make some money off of. So I'm gonna make sure that my reading is gonna tug on that heartstring, so they're gonna come back to me next time. That's not doing a reading. You're being a salesman. You're giving somebody a sales pitch. You're trying to sell somebody a car now at this point. Be authentic.
A lot of the early ghost hunters were. You had the people that would do the seance tables, and they were preying on people who had just lost a loved one, people bereaved,
and they preyed on that stuff. And I want to take the spiritual aspect and approach to my ghost hunting. I know that I know I'm a medium. I know that I'm spoke to, and I know that I can communicate with them. Now, I'll be the first to admit, I'm not sharp on it like I used to be, because I walked away from it for a while, and I'm coming back to it. But I have that gift. Just a matter of me honing in on it again, getting out there and trusting myself again, and having those open channels. It's very important to
repairing
constantly
that bridge.
I have to repair that bridge again, and I'm in the process of doing that. But I want to take that approach into my investigations. I want to be able to walk into the room and know that there's such and such entity in this room. I can sense a male presence in this room right now. They're standing right over there. I have that gift. I know, like when I was at my sister's house over the weekend, last weekend, I was sitting in her living room alone, and I seen something in the corner. I didn't see it as physical, but I seen it spiritually. I seen something hovering over in a corner, kind of like reached onto the side of the ceiling line and the wall line. I seen it spiritually. So I had to start learning, teaching myself to trust all that stuff again, and it's been enlightening for me, really, to be fair. And I've really enjoyed this, so to speak, cloud that's been kind of in my mind. It's spending a time on my. I've been taking a lot of time for myself in the last month and a half, working on me, getting my head straight again, working through feelings. Which, end of the day, we're all human beings, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all have our own way of grieving over certain things that's happened to you. It's a process of how you want to get through it. Some people may linger longer in the bitching and moaning part. Some people may linger a little bit longer in, getting over the fact that people may have left, or people may have done you dirty, or you just, all right, I'm done with this journey of my life. I'm ready to step away, but you don't want to, because you don't want to hurt everybody else's feelings. And so I'm glad that all that mess is away from me, and it's given me time to focus on me for a while. And it's been because I've had conversations with you, Papa, about what I'm going through in the process of what I've been going through the last few months. Just me trying to work through it. Part of it was my grieving process of losing my father and my son in such a short span, and me not taking the time out to grieve and process. I was so worried about everybody else and not worried about myself, and I let myself go down into the tubes, emotionally, spiritually. I let my shit go to the dumps. And the universe has its way of cleaning up the trash and getting that clutter out of your life, so they can bring you back to who you are again. And that's the process I'm in. And I felt really drawn to start doing the paranormal investigating again. I've always wanted to do it. And I'm finally at that point in my life where I feel like I'm ready to actually do it.
You
Officially.
definitely know you're on a path of healing when you start to feel your passions again.
That's it. I stepped away from the witch community for a long time, started doing the music stuff, and I feel myself being drawn back doing. I get more excited, and people may watch this later, and I do apologize if it hurts anybody's feelings, but I find more excitement in coming onto this show than I do the music shows. I'm more excited about coming on here, having these talks, because I feel like with the music shows, there's no purpose. There's no real cause behind it. You're not helping nobody. You're just, all you're doing is introducing people to new music, which is cool. It's cool, and I'm proud of what I've created. But that's not what I'm, like Mary Beth said. That's not what I'm meant to do.
Well, it's a give situation
It
of
is,
yourself all of the time.
and
It'd be
with this,
interested to find how your passions end up connecting to your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what my purpose is yet.
Your passions will lead you there.
That's it, and I think that's my healing process right now. It's kind of weird that it's taken me on this path of this road. That, hey, my healing, my grieving process of getting over the things that's happened to me is leading me to new adventures in my life that I didn't think that I was going to be doing, but yet here I am, gearing to embark on my first investigation. I'm finding great joy of going and researching the history of the places that I'm about to research. I mean, I'm having more fun right now than I've had in the last couple of years.
Well, tell us about this adventure that's coming up for you this weekend.
Well, this weekend I'm going to be my first investigation, which is my sister's house. I've talked a little bit about it before. I did a little bit of research on it, and I found out some really cool information about this street and when it was created, when people started migrating here. And her house is the second oldest house that was built on this street that she lives on, dating back all the way to 1910. So it's about, give or take, 120 years old, this home is. Now, I've always felt, she's lived there about 30 years, and I've always felt like there was something there. Some sort of dark presence resides in this house. Once again, I'm not going to say it's demonic. I'm not going to say it's evil. I just sense a dark presence, which that could be numerous things. Maybe sometimes someone could commit suicide, and that's a dark way of dying, right? That's a dark way of,
Mm.
let's say someone's hung themselves or they slit their wrists. That's dark. That's heavy, dark shit. That doesn't mean that the person was evil or that was an evil presence. It just means that was a really harsh way to go. And maybe that's the possibility that's going on in this house. I don't know. But I feel like there's a portal there in our basement. It still resides on the same dirt that was built 120 years ago. The foundation is still the same. It's gone through a little bit of reconstruction on the inside, but the foundation of this home is still, the basement is a dirt basement. So it's still sitting on the original land that these people lived on back then. And this was all untouched. There was migrants from Germany that's come here to work on the stockyard and the railroad system. But during the Great War, there was a huge panic we talked about earlier. There was a huge panic over Germans because of the Great War. So the city of Indianapolis shooed these people out. Who knows what these people have left behind or have done, and anger as well. Fuck these guys and fuck this city. I'm going to curse the land that these houses are built on. But as well, she's had a couple of people she's had somebody has died in this home. His name was Al. He was a white supremacist. They let him. She said he was the nicest guy in the world, but had a bad background. He spent a lot of years in prison because of his white supremacy belief, right? And so he ended up passing away upstairs in his sleep in her office. And I've had experience of hearing footsteps going down the stairs when I lived there before. When I was upstairs, I could hear somebody walking down, or I've sat downstairs in her room and I hear somebody walking upstairs. The thing about that is they have carpet, but there's no padding, and it's an old house, so every step creaks. So it's a very distinct footsteps of creaking, walking upstairs. So I thought, wow, a great way to break myself into doing this is starting off with my sister. So I'll be doing that this Saturday. I'm gonna be investigating this home, and then I'm gonna be going on Facebook Live and sharing some of the experience with everybody else. And then once the investigation is over, I'm going to overlook all the stuff, all the footage that I have, and I'm going to piece it all together and do another show where everybody can see through different eyes outside of the Facebook Live. They get to see through my cameras, my equipment, and the experiences I'm having. I'll put it all together and put it into a show for everybody to be able to watch.
I'm excited.
It'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Something different. And you said it earlier this week, Luna, that I get bored, I get stagnant, and I have to try new things. And I'm just really excited that I'm able and blessed to be able to take on new endeavors and new adventures like this.
Yes. I'm very excited for you. I can't wait.
I'm going to call ourselves the Hard Nipple Paranormal Society.
What's this with you and nipples?
I like nipples, apparently. I like them hard, apparently. Any more questions you guys got?
I think we covered quite a bit, honestly.
I don't think so. I would like to help anybody watching, though, or anybody that watches later. And this isn't to convince anybody to believe, but if you don't believe, and it's one of those things where you're wondering, or just an honest question with yourself, well, why do they communicate with this person but not me? Or why do they communicate through you as a medium but not me? Think of it in terms of, are you making yourself available to be communicated with? If we were to go to somewhere, let's say that the spirit world, even though it's mixed with ours, is a different place, like we could go to a different physical place here where we don't speak the same language. We're going to see a big group of people that don't speak the same language. We don't speak their language. So are we going to try to find somebody in that group of people who does speak the same language? There's going to be 50 people in a room, but we're going to try to find someone who speaks the same language that we do. there's no point in talking to everybody else because we're not going to understand each other. We're not going to be able to
Yeah.
communicate. So we're going
I
to find
think
that person in the room who happens to speak the same language.
Mary Beth has a question. Strangest experience. Okay. I think one of probably the most scariest experience I've ever had was when I lived right over the next block over. As a child, I was probably about 15 or 16, I guess, at the time. And it was my bedroom was a basement, and when you turn the lights off, it's completely dark. But I can remember one time getting up out of bed to go try to go use the restroom, and as I was getting up out of bed, I felt something grab my shoulders, like grab me like this, pick me up, and then toss me back into the bed and threw me back down onto the bed. People say that's sleep paralysis, but I remember very distinctly having to pee really bad, so I was getting up to go pee. And way my bed was laying this way, facing the stairwells that goes upstairs. So when I laid in bed, I was looking at the stairwell and the blanket I had over my opening to get up the stairwell. I seen the blanket move. Something grabbed me by the shoulders, lift me up, and threw me down on the bed. It got on top of me, had my arms held down, and I had my feet where I couldn't move. But I could look and I could speak. And when I tried to speak, something put its hand over my mouth, so I couldn't speak. At that time, I was still going to church, and I was trying to speak. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. You have no authority in this room. Get out. But when I was trying to say that, something, like I said, put their hand over my mouth to prevent me. I couldn't say the words. I could mumble it, but I couldn't say it. And so I moved my head, and I moved my head over to the pillow. My left ear was on the pillow. I heard something whisper in my ear, "Don't let him go. He cannot leave this room. He cannot go." And then when that happened, I just all of a sudden, just like, in the name of Jesus, you're out of this room. And then I jumped up out of the bed. I ran upstairs and I went to my sister's room and I laid in bed with her. She woke up the next morning and she goes, "Why are you in the bed with me?" I said, "Your fucking ass go downstairs and you experience what I just experienced. And I promise you would run up here and lay in bed with me too. You would not want to be alone." It happened to me twice in that particular home. That home actually still scares me today. When I walk by it, I get a creepy vibe from it. That's my strangest, scariest experience I can say right now. Outside of having
Oh,
like
thank you.
I have had washer doors pop open. I've had dryer doors pop open. I've had just out of nowhere. You know, old school 80s, 90s washers. Dryers, they clip in. They snap in. You got to pull them back out. So it wasn't like it was something that could happen easily like today's machines. These were like you had to pull them and slam them shut, and the washer had to slam shut, door had to slam shut. So these things just popped open out of nowhere. I've had experiences where I was in an apartment and I could hear somebody holler my name, "Hey, Sydney." So I remember getting up, going, looking outside. I thought somebody was like I lived upstairs in a house. So I thought somebody was at my downstairs door hollering for me. So I jump up, go out to the door, and like, yeah, nobody was there. And I went downstairs, opened the door, no fucking car, nobody around. So I've had that happen. And I've had a few things, but yeah, the scariest was probably the me being picked up and thrown down on the bed. I hope that answers your questions, Mary Beth. Anyway, yeah. Anything else?
Well, do you have anything else,
Not
Papa?
really.
Let's see. I did write down quite a few, but you've pretty much brought everything up on your own. You
I'm
like
good
to
about
do
that.
that. So you are attuned to the spirits that are around you, or ghosts.
Not
You
fully attuned. I wouldn't say I'm fully attuned, but I'm working to get that way. I'm focusing a lot more on it, so that when I start doing these investigations, I can walk into this place and I want to be able to feel the presence of whatever's there. So I'm working on that connection, that line again, like Papa said earlier, that building that bridge again with the other side. But yeah, I'm working on it.
And what do you hope to accomplish by doing this?
Answers. I want to get answers. And like I said earlier, I want to be able to take what my experiences and build upon that in my own life, in my own spiritual path. People out here want a lot of people want to know, is there a life after death? And a lot of people out there want to communicate with family members that have passed. I want to be able to get myself to that point where I trust myself and I've had enough experiences through investigations where I can say, hey, someone's coming through and I want to give you the message, but I want these people to trust me, knowing that I'm giving them the correct information. By doing so is going out there and doing some investigating, using that mediumship gift that I have to be able to communicate. If there's anything there that they're able to open that channel with them to communicate. And a lot of it's going to be very vital for this to happen is me not knowing a lot from the individual, but me doing my history and being an open channel to whatever there is in that area. That's why my sister's house can be interesting. When I do that 1907 is going to be very interesting because there's several different things that's going on there that site. And then I'm going to go to the cemetery before it gets too cold and do an investigation there too.
Is
I
there
think
any
it builds on that. The more that you do, the more you're out there. It builds. It builds.
Yes.
Not just for your answers or your collection, but it shows your availability and builds on that. It's like how we can identify a doctor because of their white coat and their badge. We can identify a police officer or a firefighter, or when someone's working in a store because they make themselves available to be seen as such. And as you go through your work, more and more is going to come to you because of that.
Because
this
you're
is
becoming
my
more
work
open
and
to
make
what you're
myself
doing, and
available.
you're starting to believe more in what you're doing. You're becoming more open to it. The more experiences you start to have, and you're able to document. You're proving that there is something else out there. And I'm also doing things to challenge what people say are. It's like you go to the cemetery. I'm going to do a direct thing. I'm going to my grandmother's gravesite. And if there was any energy that's left over, that would be the most appropriate place to find it, right? It's right here where her body is at. So I'm doing things to really investigate the possibility of them being able to communicate with us in the afterlife. I had a very strong bond with my grandmother, so I can use these type of things to see if it worked. Just like the other day when I did that live with you, Luna, when you saw that live with me. And I had my grandfather's driver's license, and I had his social security card. I had his favorite knife, and I laid that all out there to try to communicate with just him, but I didn't. It didn't even go in his direction. It totally went somewhere else.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do things that you could visually see on TV, like you see these people go investigating these certain spots, and they're getting these certain responses, and they're documenting. I want to do the same thing to prove to myself that there is, or teach myself as well.
Yeah.
What better site to do that than going to a cemetery and try to communicate with your ancestor there?
Yeah. Do you have any words of wisdom for others that are starting out on this path as well?
I mean, just like anything, really, just do your homework, research what you're doing, trust yourself in what you're doing, and don't let anybody tell you that you can't do something when you absolutely 100% can do whatever you want to. In life in general, not just in paranormal, but in life in general, you'll have more naysayers than you will have people that's around you that say yes. That's a known fact. And a lot of these people that are around you that are naysayers don't want you to succeed because they're afraid themselves of stepping outside their box and trying something new. Never be afraid to try something new. Never be afraid to take on adventures. Never be afraid to swerve off the path a little bit in your own journey to explore other possibilities. Believe in yourself. Believe in what you're doing. But when it comes to paranormal, do your research though. Don't look at everything as don't look at everything with an open mind. Not with just I'm going there and I'm communicating with somebody and that's it. There may be more to the bigger picture than what you're going there to investigate. So it's always good to look at the things. Just do your research and be open-minded.
Absolutely. Well,
Good show, guys.
yeah.
Good questions.
Well, thank you for being open to an interview
Well, these are
and
hard
sharing your
questions.
journey.
They're hard questions, to be fair, because you're trying to answer them as honest as you feel they are. And when you wouldn't believe it or not, but like asking what a ghost is, that's really a hard question when you really think about it. What is actually a ghost around here? So, I mean, great questions by both of you guys, to be fair.
Thank
I don't
you.
have all the answers, but I can give you my opinion.
That's what you're working on. Those answers.
Getting those answers. Yep. Great job. I can't wait till next Wednesday.
Me too.
And then I'm going to put somebody else in the hot seat.
Who will it be?
Well, guys, thanks again, everybody who's tuned in tonight for another fantastic episode of the Witches Hour. We'll be back next Wednesday for another episode. Until then, I'll see you guys on Saturday when I do the live investigation at my sister's house. So you guys tune in for that. That's going to be fun. And we got some upcoming shows up this weekend as well. I think Friday we have Friday and Saturday we got bands on the show. I think one of them's Poe the Passenger and another band. So be sure to tune in for that. Friday night, Jason and Ian will be back during their show. And then I'll be back on Saturday interviewing Poe the Passenger. Outside of that, great show, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. You guys have a good evening. We will catch you guys on the flip side. Until then, guys, be safe and be well.